Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel several times before, albeit the away brewery slightly more frequently than the home one. The home brewery, I would say, is best known for their different kinds of IPAs, whereas the away brewery is best known for their New England hazies and also for their big fruity juicy sours, the Berliner Weisses and Goses and stuff like this. So the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from either brewery before, if memory serves me correctly. It's a sub-style that I also very much enjoy, so I have to say I'm very, very curious to see how this one's going to turn out. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for the home brewery then, we are going to head up to Jämtland County, Jämtlands Lane, which is to the northwest of Stockholm. We're going to go to a little place called Ore, which is famous for its ski resorts, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri, or the Black Hill Mountain Brewery, I guess it would be if you translated it into English. But this particular beer is called Robot Fuel. It comes in at 10% ABV, and this one is an Imperial Stout with coffee and vanilla. It's brewed in collaboration with Fermenterarna, who are originally from Strömstad on the Swedish west coast, quite close to the Norwegian border, but they have very recently moved down to Gothenburg, Göteborg. So yeah, two very, very good breweries involved in this one. Two breweries that I would describe as up and coming in the Swedish beer scene actually, so make sure you do check these guys out. But the coffee in this one is from Big Lake Coffee as well, who are from Östersund, just a little bit to the east of Ore. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the local Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for April of 2022. But yeah, a big 10% Imperial Coffee Stout. This one, a style I very much enjoy, and I always credit that to Dugas Brewery for their Imperial Coffee Stouts that they did with Hunter and Sons from England back in the day. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, some other reviews that I've done, both from Svartbergets and from Fermenterarna. We will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future, because I do enjoy the beers from these guys. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri first off, since they are the home brewery in this instance. So, Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri, or the Black Hill Mountain Brewery, as I believe it would be in English, are based in Ore in Jämtland County, as I mentioned earlier, and the company was founded back in 2017. But the brewery was originally based in the basement of the Ore Ski-In restaurant, and the main man behind the brewing is Philip Hafstad, who had been a home brewer for about 6 years prior to founding the company, and he joined the company actually after a period of working in Asia. But the restaurant is a family business, and it was founded originally in 1980 when Arne Hafstad built the restaurant on the hill. But at the restaurant they have 10 beer taps, and originally they had to transport the beer up the hill by bike every week to service these taps. But a little bit later in 2019, owing to the success of their beers, they decided that they were going to invest more in the brewery side of the business, so they opened up a second and larger production facility in Brewed, which is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and they then hired Sebastian Tornäs as the brewer. So they've gradually expanded their output over the course of 2020, and they produced around 100,000 litres, and they estimate that this current facility that they have could eventually be expanded up to 350,000 litres. I think the expansion was put on hold a little bit because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, but yeah, they do have plans to basically expand up to capacity from what I understand. But as of May 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 60 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And yeah, as I said to you earlier, these guys are known mainly for their different kinds of IPAs. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about this brewery. The only other thing that comes to mind with Svartbergets is that I believe the guys who own this are related in some way to one of the owners of Stigbergets, if I remember correctly. I think Philip is a cousin of one of the two owners of Svartbergets, actually, if I remember what I heard correctly. But yeah, that's maybe something that I can confirm for you in the future. But yeah, definitely a very good brewery, and one that you definitely want to check out if you get the chance. But yeah, that's everything we can say about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's move on then to the away brewery in this instance. So Fermenterarna then. Fermenterarna was originally founded by Niklas Aronsson and Anna Claesson, and they founded the company together back in 2018. So they were originally based in Strömstad in Västergötland, which is quite a famous little fishing town, very close to the Norwegian border. And apparently Niklas got into beer one day after ordering a beer at a bar without really knowing what it was. And it turned out that this beer was the Tropic Thunder from Brewery, who I mentioned earlier were the ones that got me into Imperial Coffee Stouts. But Tropic Thunder is the what I would describe as the kind of cult classic Swedish sour beer, a collaboration with Stillwater Artisanal back in the day though, and one that I really would recommend that you check out. But this beer just kind of apparently blew his mind, and he thought, you know what, I need to learn how to brew beers like this. But Anna, on the other hand, has had a long interest in things that ferment, and she also runs the restaurant Kostos Trädgårdar, and she has done various things like sauerkraut, sourdough bread, pretty much everything that you can imagine that would ferment in the past. I don't know if she did kombucha and things like that as well, but yeah, she's done a lot of things, and it was her love of fermentation, basically, her love of fermenting things, that really inspired the name Fermenterarna, or the fermenters as it would be in English. But the brewery itself started out with a small 200 litre brew kit and tanks, and in late 2018 they actually took a break to expand the company after their beers were received very well at different festivals. So they now boast, they got a new facility after that with two 500 litre brew kits, and they had a total tank capacity of 17,000 litres, and they were aiming to brew about 50,000 litres over the course of 2019. But at this point in time they said they had the equipment to brew up to 250,000 litres of beer per year. But in August of 2021, last year, they moved to a new brewery in the Hisingen area in Gothenburg, Göteborg, a little bit to the south, and they took their equipment with them, and recently they have received a new 3,000 litre brew kit, and they plan to open up a tap room at the brewery as well as a restaurant at some point in the near future. I'm not sure if that will be something that opens this summer, but I will keep an eye on that, and I do want to get up to Gothenburg again and do a little bit more kind of out and about filming for you. I think that would be pretty fun to do, actually. But yeah, according to Untappd, these guys have produced around 130 different kinds of beer as of May 2022, and no doubt that will continue to increase in the future. Like I said earlier, they are known mainly for their different New England hazy IPAs, but also for their kind of fruity, juicy sours, the Berliner Weisses and Goses and stuff like this. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Fermenterarna for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So yeah, as you can see, the artwork on this one is a little bit different from what we've had from Svartbergets or Fermenterarna before. It is a little 330ml can, as we said earlier. It's an Imperial Stout brewed with coffee and vanilla. And the coffee in this one comes from Big Lake Coffee, who are a coffee roastery based in Östersund, which is a little bit to the east of Åre. I think the nearest kind of big city, if you like, I'm not sure about the difference in size right enough, but the two cities that are closest to Åre would be Trondheim over the border in Norway, and Östersund, which is a bit over to the east in in Sweden, of course. But yeah, this one, as I said earlier, was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt through Systembolaget here in Sweden for April 2022. I think I paid 40 Swedish kronor for this one, maybe a little bit more, but 40 Swedish kronor would be roughly around £3.25 sterling, about €4 and somewhere in the region of like $5 American. But for a 10% Imperial Stout with coffee and stuff in it, I think that's pretty damn good. And as I said earlier, this will be my first Imperial Stout from either of these breweries. But yeah, gold top on the can there. I think we can get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. So yeah, let's do this and see how we go. Really looking forward to this. Always enjoy a good Imperial Coffee Stout. Now, as I've told you on the channel before, when it comes to coffee beans, these are just extremely diverse. They're like hops. So with coffee beans, it's all about the maso, the meters above sea level, the height at which you grow the coffee. Apparently this gives you more fruity. The higher the higher you grow it, basically, the more likely you are to get aromatic, fruity flavours and stuff like this. But remember, all across the world you've got different soil profiles, water profiles and so on. So this can really affect coffee beans quite a lot. You know, you'll find Ecuadorian coffees are different from Honduran, you've got Brazilian coffees, African coffees, all of these kind of things. Very interesting adjunct, I have to say. But yeah, I love it. I love that in Imperial Stouts. They can affect the flavour like so much. But yeah, anyway, we've got the beer out and into the glass now. So as you can see, this beer poured with about 1/4 to 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawn coloured head. That head has faded away to be a very thin foamy layer with little wisps going around the top of the thing there. But as you can see, there's a nice sort of foamy ring around the edge of the glass there. But yeah, there are 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation in this one. And the thing is, with this beer being about 10%, you're not going to get the carbonation hanging around all that long. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, if we shine the light through it, I'd say that it is a lovely dark kind of ebony rosewood colour, which to be honest is what you would expect from an Imperial Stout. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any adjuncts that you put in or any barrel aging that you do will affect the colour of the beer. With Imperial Stouts, it's a little bit difficult to affect the colour of the beer. With most adjuncts, even, you know, very dark coffee beans aren't going to affect the colour of an Imperial Stout too much. But yeah, I have seen it done with beets before, but beet Imperial Stouts are a bit strange, although Puasta in Estonia did make it work. But this beer does have a little bit of a kind of Coca-Cola, Pepsi coloured edge to it, I have to say. But appearance-wise, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about this one. This is pretty much as you would expect. But yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. Very curious about this. Oh yeah, that does smell very nice. I'm going to say straight away, just a basic first impression. The coffee is very smooth in this one. The beer does have a really nice little bit of sweetness to it. There's a little bit of hoppy character in there, and you're also getting a wee bit of fruitiness, but you know, the coffee I think does dominate this one. The other thing that's interesting is it's a coffee and vanilla stout. The vanilla for me isn't too... The vanilla I don't find to be too apparent, but I think that might come out a little bit more in the flavour itself. I do want to check the ingredients list on this one and just see, is this going to be one that has like wheat and oats in it? Actually, no. Just barley malt that's in this one. Interesting. Because, yeah, that's maybe why. I think that could well be why the vanilla doesn't quite come out as much. Maybe the kind of roasty, toasty black malts or the special B or whatever it is they've used in the base of this beer is just pushing out the kind of coffee bean aromas a little bit more. But, yeah, quite a smooth but roasty, toasty Imperial Coffee Stout, this one. So, yeah, let's take a closer look at that aroma and just break it down a wee bit more. We'll give it a wee shugo first. But yeah, we'll focus on the coffee beans. So for me, the coffee bean in this one is really nice. You can smell it's got a nice smooth roast to it. There's a wee bit of earthiness in there. I think it has got a wee bit of, it has got a little bit of floral aromaticity to it, and it's also got, it does have a wee bit of a red fruity note, but I don't think the fruity side of this coffee is all that pungent. For me, it's smooth roast, nice little bit of earthiness, bit of aromaticity, and then just a wee teeny hint of a red fruit, you know, like a slight, I don't know if I'd go as far as plum, maybe a little bit of a figgy note or something like that. And that is only the coffee bean. I'll state that right now. That is only the coffee bean we're looking at the moment. But yeah, if we actually look at the malty side of the beer, the coffee bean does of course dominate, but you can pick up some of the malty notes under this one too. So yeah, for me, you do get a little bit of a bread crusty backbone. There's a big kind of brown bready note in there as well, and it's almost like the coffee is kind of embedded. It's almost like the coffee is kind of embedded in the yeah, it really is almost like the coffee is kind of embedded in the within that kind of bready part of the beer. Now I do get a little bit of like a cocoa nibby, chocolatey type thing. Yeah, I do get a little bit of that kind of, yeah, there's a kind of, as I say, bit of a roasty toasty bread crust, some brown bread. Within that you've got all the coffee bean in there. The more that I smell this beer, I'm starting to get a little bit of vanilla and almost a wee bit of like a slightly nutty character as well. But yeah, I do get a little element of chocolate out of this one. There's a wee bit of a milky chocolate, you know, a kind of 30% cocoa type thing. But then you've also got, yeah, you've also got a little bit of a more, you do have a little bit of a more kind of, you get a bit of that kind of higher percentage cocoa chocolate out of this, you know, like a 70-80% cocoa chocolate. It's not, you know, very, very dark, but you can smell it. And I think the coffee bean really goes a long way to just smoothing the whole malty, adjuncty side of the beer out. But yeah, it smells really, really nice, this one. It's one of the smoother Imperial coffee stouts that I've come across, and the more that I smell the beer, it actually starts to smell almost a little bit creamy, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I like that about this one for sure. But I think that's everything we really need to say about the malty side of things. There maybe is a little touch of brown sugar to this one, like a kind of roasty toasty kind of caramelly note or something like that. But yeah, the hoppy side of things is quite interesting in this one. So I would say there's a little bit of earthiness in the beer for sure. On the hoppy side of things, a little bit of earthiness. I do get a little bit of a floral note and a lighter grassy side of things, but the green component isn't too pungent in this one. But to be honest, you would expect that from an Imperial Stout. The hoppy side of an Imperial Stout is not the most prominent part of the beer, should we say. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, for me, fruity side of this beer is quite nice. It actually gets a little bit sharper the more that you smell of it. We're talking about the fruits from the hops in this one. But yeah, for me, there's definitely a wee bit of a raisiny character. There's a kind of more oily plum underneath. It almost has a little bit more like a brownie-ish character to it the more you smell of this beer, come to think of it. But yeah, a bit of raisin, wee bit of plum, and some blackberry. I think it has got a little bit of a kind of sweet blackberry. The fruity notes are quite, not pungent, but they're quite prominent in this one. So I do like how that goes together in this beer. It gets a big thumbs up from me. I do like how this one goes about its business for sure. So yeah, aroma wise, this is really nice, but you guys know I'm a sucker for the aroma of a big Imperial coffee stout, so I think this is going to be nice. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how it goes. I always say though, take a bit of time to just ponder over that aroma before you get stuck in. But yeah, this is the Robot Fuel, an Imperial Stout with coffee and vanilla, 10% ABV from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri in Åre in Jämtland, and Fermenterarna from Gothenburg on the Swedish west coast. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's really nice. That is quite nice. First impression of it is, this is quite a light Imperial Stout in terms of its mouthfeel. Yeah, in terms of its mouthfeel, I think this is quite a light Imperial Stout, but it's full of flavour. It really is full of flavour. This is kind of interesting because, as I've told you before, for me, it's very difficult to beat the Nordic countries in terms of the thickness of the mouthfeel that you get from a number of these Imperial Stouts. Like some of the American ones I try, they're beautiful beers, but I always just feel they find very light. They feel very light in comparison to some of the ones that you get over here. So I suspect that this beer hasn't had too long a wort boil. You know, breweries like Nerd Brewing here in Skåne, I think they leave their wort kind of bubbling overnight and things just to, you know, give you that really thick mouthfeel. But yeah, the aroma, the flavour that you get out of this though is really damn good. I like that for sure. So yeah, I think this goes together and really nicely. It's a big thumbs up from me. But yeah, really light and smooth coffee stout, this one. It's interesting because like the front half of your palate is quite sweet, whereas the back half of the palate is quite roasty and toasty, and it finds a really nice balance between this. But I think it starts to lean more towards the sweet side of things the further that you go into the aftertaste. But regardless, it's a lovely beer, this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like this. I do like this. Yes, let's have a look at this and just break down the flavour for you a little bit more kind of in depth, if you like. So, on the in the middle third of your palate then, the base of this beer is the backbone of it. You can taste that sort of roasty, toasty, bread crusty quality, a little bit of special B, or you know, it's a little bit of black malt, a little bit of special B, it's something like that. On top of that, you can feel there is a little bit of a kind of brown bready layer there, like it's not quite sweet enough to be rye bread, but there is a wee bit of that kind of wholemeal bready sort of thing. So yeah, bread crust, brown bread. Toward the front of that middle third of the palate, there's a wee bit of a nutty sort of thing, a little bit of a woody kind of undertone to it, and I really like that as well. On top of the brown bread, there's a little bit of a roasty, toasty kind of brown sugary element to it, which I really like. There's a little bit of a roasty, toasty. Yeah, a wee bit of that, as I say, roasty, toasty, brown sugary note to it. It's not overly sweet. It is actually it really is a kind of roasty, toasty, kind of slightly dry brown sugary quality. But toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you can feel the vanilla just kind of sitting there. So you get a little sweet kind of circle of vanilla in the front half of that front third of your palate. You do get one or two little nutty elements there. So it's like on the front half of that front third of your palate. So you've got the bread crust, the kind of woody notes, the brown bread, then you've got the vanilla sitting on a little bit of the toasty brown sugar, the vanilla on top, and then there's a few nutty characters just embedded into that. But when you go toward the back of that, front third of your palate, the middle third of your palate, sorry, brain is not working today. When you go toward the back of that middle third of your palate, you can feel the coffee notes coming out of this one. So yeah. So yeah, you've got a nice wee sort of how do we say, yeah, you do have a nice little bit of a kind of, you do have a nice wee bit of a kind of roasty, toasty. The coffee bean really just kind of, it sits there, and that dominates the back half of that middle third of your palate. This is where most of the flavour is sitting, of course. So yeah, it feels underneath the coffee bean, there might be a wee bit of a kind of dry, almost cocoa-nibby sort of thing, and it's like a slightly bitter chocolate, you know, about 60-70% cocoa. But then yeah, on top of that you get the smooth coffee bean. Now the coffee bean, as I said earlier, it's got quite a smooth and slightly dry roast to it. You get a good bit of earthiness out of it. There's maybe a wee bit of aromaticity, then just a little touch of fruitiness there. So that coffee bean note sits on the back half of that middle third of your palate, and it kind of edges into the back third of the palate too. So I do really like how all of that goes together. Absolutely. But yeah, it's nice. It really is nice, that. And I think the coffee gets a little bit more aromatic the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. The beer, it feels like it thickens out a wee bit the more that you drink of it, but as I say, it's definitely not the thickest of Imperial Stouts that you're going to come across actually, but it works. It really does work, this one. And the other thing you have to remember is the ore water will be very, very clean and things, so I always find when you get beers, the Scandinavian and Nordic beers always just feel very clean in their mouthfeel, so that's probably making it feel even lighter in its mouthfeel, in fairness. But let's focus on the back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up there, it's almost brownie-like, and then the coffee bean is kind of mixing into that. But the base of the back third of the palate, the roasted toasted bread crust is there, you've got a thicker brown bready layer of course, then you can feel the coffee bean sort of sitting on top of that, and all these flavours are slightly more bitter on that back third of the palate. Then on top of all of that, you've got the yeasty notes in there, so you get like a sort of more dense, doughy, brown bready sort of thing, and a wee bit of a more like slightly well-fired bread crusty element to it. And that works, but it's not overly bitter, this beer. I think this is really nice and very smooth actually. So yeah, I think this would be nice. It would be cool if they released this beer every year as like a seasonal or something like that. It would be pretty good. But yeah, very solid first effort for sure in terms of Imperial Stouts from these guys. I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour, the malty and adjuncty side of this beer. The only other thing to say would be that on the back third of the palate, the flavour is definitely taller, but then as you move into the middle third of the palate, the flavour just squashes down. It just squashes down a wee bit more. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this one. It's a nicely done beer from the malty and yeasty side of things. Yeah, I think we can move on to the hoppy side of the beer. So yeah, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness in there, absolutely. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a kind of floral aromatic sort of thing to it. Then as you push toward the kind of front corners of your palate, it's got a little bit of a more floral aromatic sort of thing going on. It's not the hoppiest of beers, and as I said earlier, you know, Imperial Stouts tend not to be, but round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. You do get a bit of oiliness to the grassy character as well, and just a wee touch of zestiness, which I like. But yeah, on the I think that's everything we need to say about the green component, but let's focus on the front third of your palate and the kind of fruity side of the hoppy part of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up in there, and it is kind of like a, you know, it is actually kind of like a kind of brownie, a chocolate brownie sort of thing. Then the base of that front third of your palate is a wee bit more. It's a wee. It just feels like that sort of brownie note, but you can feel it is like a smooth, bready character in there. If I wasn't aware that there was no oats in this beer, I would say that it's almost got a little bit of that oaty smoothness. But sitting on top of that, of course, you get a little bit of that oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. But yeah, I think that works nicely. On the fruity side of things, at the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of the raisiny note to it. It's not quite, the fruity side of this beer is actually quite wet. It's not the most oily, but there's a wee bit of raisin in there. Underneath that, you get a wee bit of a kind of plummy note as well, but again, it's not overly oily. As you move further forward, it does have a little bit of a figgy note, and as you go into the front half of the front third of your palate, it's a little bit blackcurranty, and on top of that, there's a wee bit more of an oily blackberry. But as I say, the fruity side of this beer is more wet rather than being oily. But yeah, I do like how this beer goes about its business on the flavour side of things. It really is very, very nicely done. The other thing I'm noticing as well, in that border region, I was saying there's a bit of brownie to it. And you do get a little bit of the coffee bean just coming out there as well, and it's the sort of earthy, slightly aromatic side of the coffee, I think, that comes out further forward. So that's interesting that the coffee bean does creep forward on the palate the more that you drink of this beer, but it's lovely. It is lovely. I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this one, so we'll round off this review with a look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, I would say that this beer, it's mid-bodied, this one. It really is mid-bodied. It's light in its mouthfeel for an Imperial Stout. It could maybe do with, you know, a slightly longer wort boil just being thickened up a little bit. but that's me nitpicking. The most important thing is the flavour. And in fairness, the thing with Svartbergets is the beers have always have, the Svartbergets beers always have this kind of cleanliness to them. But it works, and this is one of the first darker beers I've had from them, in fairness, so if they are only starting to brew this style, if that makes sense, it is going to take them a wee bit of time to kind of push on with that for sure. But yeah, so for me it's mid-bodied. This one, it's right in the middle of the spectrum, but light for the style. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got a nice clean mouthfeel to it. It's a bit silky in some ways as well. In terms of the IBUs, I think this is, you've got some of the bitterness coming from the coffeeness, a wee bit from the hops. I think this is probably about a 40 IBU beer, something like that. It could be a little bit more. Always take my IBU counts with a pinch of salt. That's my weakest point of beer reviewing. But the malty side of the beer, as we say, it's got roasty and toasty characters to it. There's a bit of sweetness in there. And you've got the kind of coffee bean elements as well, which I really like. A little bit of, as we say, a hoppy character. And you've also got that nice kind of fruity note to it as well. So I really like how this beer goes about its business. It's quite a wet, fruity character you get from this one, but not quite as pungent in its fruity notes as I was expecting it to be from the aroma, right enough. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in this one. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this. So yeah, this one was the Robot Fuel, an Imperial Coffee and Vanilla Stout from brain's not working, Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri in Åre in Jämtland, in collaboration with Fermenterarna from Gothenburg, using Big Lake coffee from Östersund. So yeah, this has been awesome to review, and my first Imperial Stout from either of these breweries, so I look forward to trying more from them actually. I would love to see these breweries do Imperial Stouts a little bit more often. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Svartbergets and from Fermenterarna, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. In the meantime, check out my social media, check out their social media, and do let me know any Imperial Coffee Stouts that you reckon I should take a look at. Slange it, skull, cheers, and see you guys on the next review.